When you're sad, so you have a self-care day. My aunt recently passed away after losing her battle to cancer. This was filmed before her funeral. This was filmed the day she fell into her coma. A bunch of my relatives had flown out the night before to see her for the last time. I was honestly really sad because I was supposed to visit her on the 29th of March. Since she was a cancer patient, she was very immunocompromised, and for her chemo, she needed to stay away from people who are sick. And for me, I get easily sick. Therefore, I was really working hard on my health to make sure that I could be healthy by the time I visit her. Like, I'm sick doing this voiceover. I get sick really easily. My aunt was the sweetest person I've ever known. A stay-at-home mom who not only took care of her three kids and husband, she also took care of over 10 plus nieces and nephews over here in the East Coast every summer. And when her family needed money, she was more than on board to work. When her youngest was about to start college, she wanted to supplement the family's income, so she worked night shifts. Now that her kids are all highly successful, this should have been her time to start relaxing and finally having fun and stop being a caretaker. However, her life's purpose was to be a caretaker. She not only took care of her mother-in-law and her father-in-law really well until their deaths. She basically raised each and every one of my cousins every summer while we were growing up. I cannot think of a more selfless person in this world, and I'm sorry I couldn't see you before you passed. And I'm sorry you couldn't see Grandma for one last time. But I hope that you're happy wherever you are, and I hope you finally get to relax. And I'm glad that you're no longer in any pain or discomfort. She was a homemaker, a caretaker, and she was a fighter. I know that my aunt fought until the very last minute to stay alive. For her, for her children, for her husband, for her family here in the East Coast, for her mother, for her life, and for her future. The funeral was very chaotic. My aunt had six sisters and two brothers. We're also Vietnamese, so you know how that goes. There was a lot of arguments and opinions on how to give her the best ceremony, give her the most beautiful ceremony and goodbye that we could do. Her sister is dressed in purple ao dais, a Vietnamese traditional dress. Purple was her favorite color. Her nieces honored her by wearing black ao dais, and her nephew carried her casket into the church. We pinned purple orchids onto her chest, right where our hearts are. Purple orchids are her favorite flower. When it was time to say goodbye, we placed our flowers that we have worn for 2 days over our hearts onto her casket to be cremated along with the rest of her. Two stuffed animals that was also sent off with her. Two of my cousins sent them to her, so whenever she was in pain, she would clutch them close to her heart. When she fell into her coma, she never let go. On her last day, her sisters painted her nails because she loved getting her nails painted. Her nieces and nephew had a group FaceTime to send our final wishes and goodbyes to her. We played a message about how much our grandma misses and loved her in her last few hours. I guess she must have heard because tears started streaming down her face. The ceremony was beautiful, and you could tell how much she was loved. Her final wish was to be cremated and placed inside her house so she can continue to take care of her husband and children, and continue to watch after her husband so he doesn't get too lonely, especially once their children continue to live their lives. She wanted to always be there for her husband. That kind of love is so unconditional and pure. It's one that only a mother could have. Despite being quite timid, she was willing to go outside of her comfort zone just to provide and take care of her family. She overcame her fear of driving just so she could drive her kids to their events. Despite being scared of a lot of things, she was still one of the bravest women that I've ever known. It's really unfair because this should have been her time to relax. I was supposed to visit her in about a week, but then she passed before I could visit her. Everything about this just seems so unfair. And I question why something like this had to happen to her, one of the nicest, selfless person I've known. When I was a child, I was actually scared of her. It was only after growing up that I realized that she was just a paper tiger. She acted tough, but really she was the sweetest person alive, making sure that everyone's stomachs are full, always with a smile on her face despite any circumstance. A kind wife, mother, and aunt. A good daughter and confidant. And my role model. So, Becca, thank you for everything that you've done for me. Thank you for everything you've done for the family. And thank you for showing me what unconditional love is like. I miss you and I love you. Goodbye. Say hi to Onwai for me.